My daughter cancelled my oncologist appointment after a 3-month wait to take her mother-in-law to the spa for 6 hours. I lost that appointment. My cancer progressed. 2 months later, I discovered it wasn't an oversight. It was the first step in a plan to claim everything I had built in 42 years of work. Before continuing, subscribe and activate the notification bell because we publish new stories every day. Leave your like and tell us in the comments what city and country you're watching from. My name is Ernest Vance Roberts. I'm 67 years old, and throughout my life, I considered myself a man of solid principles. I worked as a civil engineer from the age of 25 until my retirement 7 years ago. I built bridges, roads, and buildings that still stand throughout the state of California. Every dollar I earned was with honest effort, with hands that got dirty with cement, and a mind that solved problems others considered impossible. My wife, Phyllis Roberts Scott, and I raised 2 children, Natalie, who is 38 today, and Mark, 35. Phyllis passed away in January 2021 after a long battle with diabetes. Her death devastated all of us, but especially Natalie, who was always very close to her mother, or so I believed. During the 2 years following Phyllis's death, Natalie seemed to transform into the perfect daughter. She visited me every week, prepared meals for me, organized my medications, and accompanied me to routine medical appointments. Mark, who lives in New York City for work, called constantly but couldn't be physically present often. I understood his situation and greatly valued Natalie's dedication. In November 2021, she married Adrian Thompson Carter, a 40-year-old man who worked as a financial manager for a mid-sized company. The wedding was modest, but beautiful. Adrian always struck me as polite, perhaps too interested in conversations about properties and investments, but I attributed it to his profession. Everything changed in March 2023. I began to feel an unusual fatigue, inexplicable weight loss, and persistent abdominal pains. My primary care physician, Dr. Peterson, ordered tests and imaging scans. On March 15th, I received the diagnosis no one wants to hear: Stage 2, pancreatic cancer. Dr. Peterson was direct but compassionate. He explained that I needed to see a specialized oncologist urgently and that time was crucial in such cases. He referred me to Northwestern Medical Center in Los Angeles, one of the best oncology centers in the region. The reality of the U.S. healthcare system is that specialist appointments can take months. I was given an appointment for June 15th, 2023, a 3-month wait that felt eternal. During that time, the symptoms gradually worsened. I lost 18 pounds. The pain intensified. Nights became a hell of insomnia and anxiety. Natalie was perfectly aware of my situation. I showed her all my medical reports, explained the severity of the diagnosis, and expressly asked her to help me with transportation for that crucial appointment, as I no longer felt safe driving with my level of fatigue and the painkillers I was taking. She promised to be there. "Dad, count on me. It's the most important thing. Mom would want me to take care of you," she said, with tears in her eyes. On June 14th, the day before the appointment, I called her to confirm the time. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll pick you up at 8 in the morning. Your appointment is at 9:30. We'll get there with plenty of time," she assured me in a loving voice. That night, I barely slept, not out of fear of the detailed diagnosis I would receive, but from a strange hope that the appropriate treatment would finally begin. On the morning of June 15th, I woke up at 6, showered with difficulty, dressed in comfortable clothes, and prepared a folder with all my medical reports organized chronologically. By 7:30, I was already sitting on the sofa in my apartment in a prime neighborhood of Los Angeles, waiting. At 8:15, I was surprised Natalie hadn't arrived. I called her. The phone rang 6 times before she answered. "Dad?" Her voice sounded normal, awake, unhurried. "Natalie, it's 8:15. Are you on your way?" There was a pause that lasted barely 3 seconds, but which changed everything forever. "Dad, I'm so sorry, but I won't be able to take you. Something urgent came up with Amber." Amber Carter Riley was her mother-in-law, a 64-year-old woman in perfect health. "What happened? Is she okay?" I asked, genuinely concerned. Yes, she's fine. It's just that she has a very important spa appointment that she booked months ago, and her car is at the shop. I need to take her. You know how she is. She gets very nervous if she misses these appointments." The world stopped for a moment. "Natalie, my oncologist appointment is today. I've been waiting 3 months. It's about my cancer." "I know, Dad, but you can call and reschedule. Amber has priority today. She's counting on me. You understand, right?" Amber has priority. Those words were etched in my mind with fire. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't break anything. I simply said, "I understand." And I hung up the phone. There was something profoundly instructive in that moment of absolute clarity. My daughter had just chosen her mother-in-law's beauty treatment over my cancer treatment. The words were there, crystal clear, impossible to misinterpret. There was no ambiguity, no room for doubt. She said exactly what she thought. Amber had priority. I sat on the sofa for 10 full minutes, staring at the folder with my medical reports. I thought of Phyllis. I thought of how we would have raised Natalie. I thought of the values we tried to instill in her for 38 years. Then I picked up the phone and called a taxi. It was 8:25 in the morning. Northwestern Medical Center was 25 minutes away in normal traffic conditions. I still had a chance to make it. The taxi arrived in 8 minutes. The driver, an older man named Sebastian, according to his ID, noticed my difficulty getting into the vehicle. "Are you all right, sir?" he asked with genuine concern. "I have cancer, and I'm late for my oncologist appointment," I replied simply. He nodded seriously and drove with appropriate urgency, but respecting all traffic laws. We arrived at the hospital at 9:14. I paid him $30 for an $18 fare and told him to keep the change. "Good luck, sir. God be with you," he wished me. I made my way up to the oncology floor as best I could. The receptionist checked the system. "Mr. Roberts, your appointment was at 9:30. You arrived 15 minutes early, but protocol requires checking in 30 minutes beforehand for registration and record preparation. Unfortunately, Dr. Stone is already seeing the next patient. Your slot was lost." I tried to explain. I tried to reason. The receptionist, a young woman named Patricia, according to her badge, was kind but firm. "I am so very sorry, Mr. Roberts. I understand your situation, but these are strict department rules. There's a waiting list of months. I can reschedule you for the next availability." She checked the digital calendar. "I have an opening on August 18th, 2 months from today. 2 more months, 60 additional days with a tumor growing inside me. I'll take that date," I said in a quiet voice. I returned home in another taxi. During the ride, I felt no rage. I felt something much colder, much more dangerous. Absolute clarity. My engineer's mind, trained for decades to analyze structures, identify weak points, and calculate consequences, began to work. Natalie hadn't forgotten my appointment. There was no confusion of dates. She knew exactly what she was doing. The real question was, why? I arrived at my apartment around noon, made myself some tea, sat in my favorite armchair, and began to recall, not emotionally, but methodically. I mentally reviewed the last 2.5 years since Phyllis died. At first, Natalie seemed genuinely affected and protective, but after her wedding to Adrian in November 2021, subtle changes began. Visits that used to last 3 hours were reduced to 40 minutes. Conversations that were once deep became superficial. And something else. Adrian began asking strangely specific questions about my properties. Ernest, do you still have that house in Arizona you bought in the 90s? Is this apartment in your name, or was something shared with Phyllis? Have you thought about updating your will since Mum Phyllis passed away? Questions that at the time seemed like casual conversation, but which now, in this new light, revealed a pattern. At 3 in the afternoon, my doorbell rang. Dolores Dolly Evans Peterson, my neighbor from the 5th floor, a 72-year-old woman who had lived in the building longer than I had. Dolly and Phyllis had been close friends. Ernest, I saw you came back early. Didn't you have your important appointment today? I had told her about the consultation days earlier. It was cancelled, I replied succinctly. Dolly frowned. How strange, because this morning I saw Natalie drive by here around 9. She was in her car with another older woman, both laughing. I thought maybe they had taken you and returned quickly. My stomach clenched. You saw them? Are you sure about the time? Completely. It was 9:05. I was taking out the trash. I waved at them, but they were talking very animatedly and didn't see me. Natalie had driven past my street at 9:05 in the morning. The same morning she supposedly couldn't pick me up because she urgently had to take Amber to the spa. She passed literally in front of my building with her mother-in-law in the car, laughing, while I was in a taxi, desperately trying to get to my oncology appointment on time. Are you all right, Ernest? You look very pale, Dolly observed. I'm fine. Thanks for telling me, Dolly. That afternoon, I did something I had never before considered necessary. I started documenting. I took a notebook and wrote down the date, the time, every detail of what happened that morning. I noted the verbatim phone conversation with Natalie. I noted Dolly's testimony. I noted the cost of the taxi. The names of the drivers I remembered. As an engineer, I had learned that precise documentation was the difference between a successful project and a disaster. I had a premonition that I would need this information. The next day, Natalie called me. Hi, Dad. How are you? How was your appointment yesterday? Her voice sounded casual, almost carefree. I lost it. I arrived 15 minutes late. They rescheduled me for August. There was a very brief pause. Oh, what a shame. Well, at least you have another date. It's probably not that serious to wait a little longer, right? A pancreatic tumor. 2 additional months of waiting. And she said, it's not that serious to wait a little longer, with the same tone she would use to talk about a hair salon appointment. Of course, Natalie, it's not serious, I replied with perfect calm. I hung up and added that conversation to my notebook. Then I dialed Mark's number in New York City. Mark answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, I was just thinking of calling you. How was the oncologist appointment? The genuine concern in his voice contrasted painfully with his sister's indifference. I told him everything. Natalie's cancellation, the taxi, the missed appointment, the 2 additional months of waiting. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Dad, I need to tell you something I've been wanting to say for weeks, but I didn't know how. Mark took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, I came to Los Angeles for work. I stopped by Natalie's house to say hello without warning. Adrian was in the garden, talking on the phone. He didn't see me arrive. I heard him say, verbatim, we need to resolve the old man's situation soon. Every month that passes is money evaporating in unnecessary medicines and medical expenses. When he saw me, He immediately changed the subject and hung up quickly. Something cold settled in my chest. Are you absolutely sure of what you heard? Completely sure, Dad. Those exact words. Resolve the old man's situation. And when I asked him who he was talking to, he got nervous and said it was a client, but his tone wasn't professional, it was personal. I asked Mark to also document that conversation in writing with the exact date and details. He agreed immediately. Dad, are you okay? I'm worried about what's happening. I assured him I was fine, that I just needed to understand some things. We agreed to talk every 3 days. During the following 8 weeks, until my new medical appointment, I became a silent observer of my own life. I didn't confront Natalie. I didn't accuse her of anything. I simply observed and documented every interaction. She visited me now every 10 or 12 days, brief 30-minute visits, where she asked general questions about my health but never delved deep. When I mentioned worrisome symptoms like intensified pain or weight loss, she would divert the conversation to trivial topics. On June 29th, Phyllis's birthday, we traditionally went to the cemetery together. Natalie texted me that she couldn't accompany me because Amber needed help organizing a family meal. I went alone by taxi and spent 2 hours talking to my wife's grave. Phyllis, I don't know where we went wrong with her, or perhaps we didn't go wrong. Perhaps he was the one who changed her. On July 12th, it was Adrian's cousin's wedding celebration. Natalie had invited me a month earlier. 2 days before the event, she called me. Dad, about Saturday's wedding, there was a problem with the tables. There's no space for you. You know how these things are. Large families complicate organization. But Mark, who had also been invited, told me later that there were at least 15 empty seats at the reception. Natalie had simply decided not to take me. I documented everything: dates, conversations, witnesses. My notebook grew thick with knowledge. On July 23rd, I received a call from my bank, Chase Bank, a branch in Los Angeles. The manager, Christine Miller Adams, had known me for 15 years. Mr. Roberts, I apologize for bothering you. Your daughter Natalie came in yesterday inquiring about your accounts. She asked if you had granted powers of attorney to anyone and what documentation would be needed for her to help you manage your finances due to your health condition. Per protocol, I didn't give her any information, but I felt it appropriate to inform you. I thanked her immensely for her professionalism. Ms. Adams, under no circumstances authorize any movement in my accounts without my physical presence and direct confirmation. She assured me that would be the case. I noted this conversation as well. On August 5th, Mark came to Los Angeles specifically to visit me. We spent the entire day together. He helped me with groceries, cleaning the apartment, and organizing my medications. During dinner, he looked at me seriously. Dad, is there something else? Last week I called Natalie to coordinate your August 18th appointment. I told her I would come from New York City to accompany you. Do you know what she replied? That it wasn't necessary? That you were probably exaggerating the seriousness of your condition? That at your age, doctors always find something to prescribe and charge for? She talked about your cancer as if it were an invented cold. That information was particularly revealing. Natalie was actively minimizing my diagnosis to her brother, constructing a narrative where I was an exaggerated, hypochondriac old man, not a man with a real mortal illness. Mark, I need you to trust me. Something is happening that I don't fully understand yet, but I will figure it out. In the meantime, do not confront your sister. Don't tell her we talked about this. It's important. Mark nodded, though I saw deep concern in his eyes. On August 14th, 4 days before my oncology appointment, Natalie finally showed up at my apartment without warning. She brought Adrian with her. It was the first time in months that he had visited me. "Ernest, so good to see you. You look thinner. Natalie tells me you've been a little depressed lately." Depressed. That was the word they had chosen. They sat in my living room. Adrian led the conversation, while Natalie remained strangely silent. "Ernest, Natalie and I have been thinking. This apartment is too big for you alone. The stairs, even though there's an elevator, are still complicated. There are excellent retirement communities for people your age where you'd have companionship, activities, constant medical care." He was suggesting I move to a nursing home. "And what would happen to my apartment?" I asked in a neutral tone. "Well, you could transfer it into Natalie's name. She would maintain it. She would take care of all the expenses and paperwork. You wouldn't have to worry about anything." Adrian smiled as if he were doing me a favor. "That's an interesting idea. Let me think about it," I replied calmly. They exchanged satisfied glances. They stayed barely 20 more minutes and then left. In my notebook, I wrote, August 14th, Adrian and Natalie propose retirement community and property transfer. The plan clarifies. 3 days later, on August 17th, I called an attorney. August 18th, 2023, finally arrived. This time, I didn't depend on anyone. I hired a private medical transport service that picked me up at 8 in the morning. I arrived at Northwestern Medical Center 40 minutes early. The driver, a professional named Miguel Ortega Silva, helped me to the oncology reception. I paid him $50 and gave him my number in case I needed his services again. The consultation with Dr. Harrison Stone was both devastating and revealing. He was a man in his 50s, bald, with metal-framed glasses and a serious expression that didn't hide the reality behind false optimism. He reviewed my March studies and compared them with the new tests and CT scans I had done the previous week. "Mr. Roberts, I regret to tell you that the tumor has progressed considerably in these 5 months since the initial diagnosis," he said, placing the images side by side on his screen. "In March, we had a localized tumor of approximately 3 cm, stage 2A, with no clear evidence of metastasis. Now we are seeing growth up to 4.7 cm with regional lymph node involvement. It is officially advanced stage 2B, bordering on stage 3. He explained it with graphs and terms that, with my technical background, I could understand perfectly. The 2-month delay in initial care had allowed cancerous cells to spread to neighboring structures. If we had started treatment in June, when it was originally scheduled, the chances of curative surgery were 65%. Now we are at 42%. The optimal window has closed. Dr. Stone, I need this documented with absolute clarity." My voice was firm. "I need detailed reports indicating exact dates. When was the initial diagnosis? When was the first oncology appointment scheduled? When was it actually performed? And how did that lapse affect the prognosis? Can you provide me with that documentation?" The doctor looked at me with professional curiosity. "Of course, Mr. Roberts. It is your right to have all your complete medical information. Can I prepare a detailed technical report? Is there any specific legal or personal reason? Let's just say I need absolute clarity on the consequences of decisions made by third parties," I replied. He nodded understandingly. "I'll have it ready in a week. In the meantime, we need to start neoadjuvant chemotherapy immediately. The goal is to reduce the tumor before evaluating the possibility of surgery. It's 6 cycles of 21 days each. We start next week if you accept the protocol." I accepted everything. I signed with mixed feelings. I scheduled the first session for August 25th. Stone also gave me a 3-page clinical summary describing my current situation. proposed treatment, and statistical prognosis. I guarded those papers as if they were diamonds. As I left the consultation, I immediately called Mark. He had been anxiously awaiting my call. I explained everything the doctor had said. Mark, I need to ask you something important. I want you to come to Los Angeles this weekend. There are matters we need to resolve together. I'll be there Friday night, Dad. Don't worry. During the ride back home with Miguel, the medical service driver, I made a decision. I took out my phone and searched online for attorneys specializing in family law and estate planning in Los Angeles. I found the firm of Morgan & Associates with excellent references in asset protection cases for seniors. I called from the car itself. An efficient secretary answered. Morgan & Associates, good morning. I explained that I needed an urgent consultation about estate planning and possible advice on situations of family financial abuse. She offered me an appointment for August 22nd at 11 in the morning with the principal attorney, Mr. Philip Morgan Davies. I accepted immediately. I arrived at my apartment around noon. Dolly saw me come in and came down to ask how it had gone. I briefly told her the prognosis. She put her hands to her mouth. Oh, Ernest, I'm so sorry. Does Natalie know yet? I told her I hadn't contacted her yet. Dolly shook her head. That girl should be here with you. Phyllis would be very disappointed to see her like this. That afternoon, Natalie called me, not to ask about the medical consultation, but to comment that she had seen garden furniture on sale and thought I could buy her a set for her patio. Dad, you don't have a garden, but I could use them. They're only $100. You could transfer the money to me, and I'll take care of everything. $100 for garden furniture, while I had just received confirmation that my cancer had advanced to a more dangerous stage because of the delay she herself caused. Natalie, it's not a good time for superfluous expenses. I have costly medical treatments ahead, I replied in a neutral voice. There was an uncomfortable silence. Well, it's just an idea. I thought you'd want to help your daughter. She hung up with noticeable coldness. I noted that conversation too. The pattern was becoming more evident. Minimization of my illness, financial requests, emotional distancing, attempts at patrimonial control. These were not coincidences. It was a strategy. On August 20th, I received an unexpected call from an old engineering colleague, Robert Campbell Davis, with whom I had worked on several large projects during the 90s. Ernest, forgive me for calling out of the blue. I ran into your daughter's husband a few days ago at a professional networking meeting. Adrian Thompson, right? I confirmed. Well, there was an awkward moment. He was talking to other financial managers about properties. He mentioned that he would soon have 2 prime properties in Los Angeles and Arizona available for possible sale or investment. He literally said they were family inheritance that would be liquidated soon. Ernest, you're doing well, right? I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. I am perfectly alive and conscious, Robert. Those properties are mine, and they are not for sale or in the process of inheritance because I am still here. Robert let out a low whistle. I thought it was strange. That's why I'm calling you. Be careful, friend. I thanked him deeply and hung up. Adrian was already publicly marketing my properties. He spoke of my inheritance in the present tense, as if I were already dead or incapacitated. The audacity was astonishing. On August 22nd, at 11 o'clock sharp, I entered the Morgan & Associates law firm located in a sophisticated district of downtown Los Angeles. The offices were sober, but evidently professional. Dark woods, shelves filled with legal codes, framed diplomas. The receptionist led me to a spacious office where Mr. Philip Morgan Davies, an attorney in his mid-50s with perfectly cut gray hair, an impeccable suit, and an analytical gaze, awaited me. Mr. Roberts, welcome. Please sit down. Tell me what brings you here." His voice was professional but warm. During the next hour, I laid out the entire situation with the precision of a technical report. I showed him my notebook with chronological documentation, the cancelled appointment on June 15th, Dolly's testimony about seeing them that same day, the conversations about retirement communities, the call from the bank, Robert's comment about Adrian marketing my properties, the constant financial solicitations, the medical reports showing tumor progression linked to the delay, everything. Mr. Davies took meticulous notes on his computer. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and interlaced his fingers. "Mr. Roberts, what you describe forms a troubling pattern that we legally call financial abuse of a vulnerable person. In the US, especially with increasing protections for seniors, these cases are taken very seriously. While you are fully mentally and legally competent, your medical condition makes you vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. The fact that your son-in-law is publicly talking about liquidating your inheritance while you are alive, combined with attempts to obtain powers over your finances and the documented medical negligence, builds a strong case." "Medical negligence for me?" I asked. "Your daughter had a duty of care by committing to transport you for urgent oncology treatment, cancelling that obligation for recreational activities, causing medically documented health deterioration, can be interpreted as negligence by omission. It's not necessarily criminal, but it is civilly relevant." Mr. Davies was direct with the options. First, protect my assets immediately through legal reorganization. Second, establish clear medical directives, naming a trusted representative who was not Natalie. Third, consider formal legal actions for damages if I wished. Before any aggressive legal action, I recommend securing your assets. Can you detail exactly what you own? I pulled out documents I had prepared. Apartment in a prime neighborhood of Los Angeles, 1,090 square deed in my name, valued at $850,000 according to a recent appraisal. House in a charming town in Arizona, 860 square ft with land, valued at $450,000. Savings accounts at Chase Bank with $250,000. Total assets, approximately $1,150,000. No debts, all acquired through my work as a civil engineer for 42 years. Mr. Davies nodded appreciatively. Considerable and clean assets. Now, regarding succession. While you have considerable freedom under U.S. law to designate your heirs, a common practice or expectation for parents is to divide their estate among their children. However, you can make specific provisions to distribute your estate as you see fit. My recommendation is to clearly define what each child will receive. You can also make a lifetime gift of the Arizona house to Mark. This immediately removes $450,000 from the estate, directly benefiting Mark, and depending on state law, may offer tax benefits for intergenerational transfers. I made quick calculations. So, Natalie would receive a significantly reduced portion of my total assets, when she probably expected half or more. Exactly. We can structure your will to ensure Natalie receives a portion equivalent to roughly 1/3 of your initial total assets, while Mark receives approximately 2/3, including the gifted house and the discretionary portion of your will. This route is legally sound and straightforward. I accepted all his recommendations. Mr. Davies immediately prepared documentation, a new will, deed of gift for the Arizona house, medical powers of attorney naming Mark as the sole authorized representative for healthcare decisions, and bank instructions blocking any third-party access. We'll need to go to the notary this week. Can you do Friday the 25th? I have my first chemotherapy session that morning, but I can in the afternoon. Perfect. I'll coordinate with the notary and confirm the exact time. Mark arrived that Friday night, August 22nd, from New York City. I picked him up at the train station. When he saw me, his eyes welled up. I had lost almost 26 pounds since March. Dad, you're so thin. I hugged him tightly. In the taxi ride back, I told him everything I had discovered and the steps I was taking with Mr. Davies. Mark listened with an increasingly somber expression. I can't believe my own sister is capable of this. How did we get here? I replied with something I had been reflecting on deeply. I don't think Natalie was born this way. I think Adrian found her weak spots: financial insecurity, a desire for status, a need for her mother-in-law's approval, and he exploited them. He turned her into someone your mother and I wouldn't recognize. On Saturday, August 23rd, Mark and I spent the day organizing all the necessary documents for the notary. We found the original deeds for both properties, updated bank statements, my family record, professional licenses. Everything was perfectly archived because I had always been methodical with important documentation. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Natalie. Dad, how are you? I haven't heard from you in days. I was at the hospital on the 18th. Oncology consultation, I replied simply. Oh, and what did they say? Her tone was like someone asking about a minor administrative procedure. The tumor advanced, I lost the optimal treatment window because of the delay, and I start chemotherapy on Friday. There was a pause. Well, I'm sure the doctors are exaggerating. You look fine, don't you? I didn't look fine. I had lost 26 pounds. I had deep, dark circles under my eyes. I got fatigued climbing a single flight of stairs. Natalie, Mark is here with me. He'll accompany me to treatment. I said it deliberately to observe her reaction. Mark went to Los Angeles? Why didn't you tell me? There was annoyance in her voice, not fraternal concern. He came to take care of his sick father. He didn't need your authorization, I replied, with a coldness she definitely noticed. Natalie stammered something about wanting to visit me soon and quickly hung up. Mark, who had heard my side of the conversation, shook his head. She's nervous. She feels like she's losing control. He was right. Every independent move I made, every decision taken without consulting her, eroded the plan she and Adrian had built. On Sunday, August 24th, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to church at St. Mark's Parish near my home. I'm not particularly religious, but Phyllis was, and that space always gave me clarity. After the service, I spoke briefly with Father Michael Scott, the parish priest who had officiated my wife's funeral. I told him in general terms about my medical and family situation. Father Michael, a wise 70-year-old man, placed a hand on my shoulder. Ernest, protecting what you honestly built is not greed, it's responsibility. And teaching consequences to those who act wrongly, even if they are family, is not cruelty, it's justice. Phyllis would be proud that you defend your dignity. His words gave me a peace I hadn't felt in weeks. Monday, August 25th, started early. Miguel, the medical service driver, picked me up at 7:30. Mark came with me. The first chemotherapy session at Northwestern Medical Center lasted 4 hours. I was connected to an IV, administered 3 different medications. Dr. Stone personally supervised and gave me the detailed report I had requested. 8 technical pages documenting exact dates, tumor progression, lost treatment windows, and a direct correlation between the delay from June to August and the worsening prognosis. Doctor, this document is exactly what I needed. Thank you for your professionalism, I said as I placed the report in my briefcase. We left the hospital at 12:30. I felt dizzy and weak from the medications, but mentally alert. At 4 in the afternoon, we had an appointment at the notary's office of Stephen Nelson Carter in a historic district of downtown Los Angeles. Mr. Davies was waiting for us at the entrance with 2 assistants carrying folders of documents. The notary's office was a stately building from the early 20th century, with high ceilings, dark wood furniture, exuding the solemn legal weight of such places. Stephen Nelson Carter was a meticulous 63-year-old man, a notary for 30 years. He reviewed my personal documentation. First, my driver's license and social security card, family certificate, and a medical certificate of mental capacity, signed by a psychiatrist whom Mr. Davies had coordinated to assess my cognitive competence 3 days earlier. Mr. Roberts, we will proceed today with 3 legal acts: a new will revoking previous ones, a deed of gift of property to your son Mark, and specific healthcare powers of attorney. Do you confirm that these are your decisions, freely made, without coercion? Mr. Carter looked directly into my eyes. I absolutely confirm. These are my decisions, made with full awareness and adequate legal counsel. We signed document after document. The new will specified that of the total $1,550,000 in assets, Natalie Vidal Thompson would receive $516,660. Mark Vidal Thompson would receive $516,666 plus the remaining discretionary portion, totaling $1,033,334, double his sister's share. The deed of gift transferred the Arizona house, valued at $450,000, to Mark during my lifetime. This reduced my testamentary estate to $1,100,000, from which Natalie would receive her fixed portion. The numbers were clear. She expected to inherit at least $775,000, probably calculated more if she managed to manipulate me before I died. Now she would receive just $516,666. The medical powers of attorney exclusively named Mark as the authorized representative for healthcare decisions in case of temporary incapacity. Natalie had no legal authority over my treatment. Mr. Carter read each complete document aloud, verified my understanding, confirmed my will. I signed each page with my characteristic flourish. Mark signed as the recipient of the gift and as the healthcare proxy. Everything was officially registered at 6:15 in the afternoon on Monday, August 25th, 2023. As we left the notary's office, Mr. Davies accompanied us for coffee on a nearby terrace. Mr. Roberts, your assets are now legally protected. Natalie can do absolutely nothing to alter these dispositions. Any attempt to contest the will would be rejected because we have meticulously documented your full capacity. The next step depends on you. Do you want to take active legal actions for the damages caused, or do you prefer to simply maintain the established protection? I considered it carefully. For now, let's keep this confidential. I want to see how their next moves develop. I have a feeling they haven't shown all their cards yet. Mr. Davies nodded. Wise. Keep me informed of any developments. And Mr. Roberts, if I may make a personal comment, I have handled many cases of family abuse in 30 years of practice. Most victims become paralyzed by denial or emotional pain. You have acted with admirable clarity, speed, and strategy. You are an exceptional man. That night, Mark and I had a quiet dinner in my apartment. He prepared a light soup because the chemotherapy medications had taken away my appetite. Dad, how do you feel about all this? I know it can't be easy to make these decisions about Natalie. I answered him honestly. It deeply pains me what my daughter has become, but it pains me more the idea of allowing her to abuse me without consequences. Your mother taught me that loving doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. It means setting healthy boundaries. This is tough love, Mark. It's the last lesson I can teach your sister, that actions have real consequences. On Tuesday morning, August the 26th, I received a call from the accountant who had handled my finances for years, Mr. Albert Miller Adams. Mr. Roberts, I need to inform you of something delicate. Yesterday, I received a visit from your son-in-law, Adrian Thompson. He came with printed documents that appeared to be notarized powers of attorney, although he didn't let me examine them closely. He specifically asked about your investments, pension funds, and life insurance policies. He wanted to know exact amounts, designated beneficiaries, and procedures to expedite transfers in case of cognitive deterioration of the policyholder. Those were his exact words. I felt my blood run cold, but I kept my voice calm. Mr. Adams, were those documents false, or are they irrelevant? Just yesterday, I was at the notary reorganizing all my legal affairs. Mark is my only authorized representative. Under no circumstances provide any information to Adrian Thompson or my daughter Natalie without my physical presence and explicit authorization. Don't worry, Mr. Roberts, I didn't give him any information. In fact, I asked him to leave when he insisted too much, but I felt it was important to warn you. His behavior was aggressive, unprofessional for someone supposedly just trying to help a family member. I thanked him enormously for his loyalty. I hung up and immediately told Mark, they're getting desperate. They feel something has changed, but they don't know exactly what. They're going to accelerate their moves. I wasn't mistaken. That same afternoon, at 5:20, Natalie appeared at my apartment without warning. She brought Adrian and, surprisingly, Amber. The three came up together. When I opened the door and saw them, I immediately knew they were on a coordinated mission. Dad, we need to talk seriously, Natalie began, in a tone that tried to be firm but sounded nervous. They entered without waiting for a real invitation. Mark was in the room, working on his laptop. He came out when he heard voices. Adrian quickly took the floor. Ernest, we've been very worried about you. Your health, your ability to handle complex matters, your general well-being. We know you started chemotherapy. These treatments affect mental clarity, decision-making ability. It's not your fault. It's pure chemistry. Amber intervened in a sugary voice. Mr. Roberts, I went through something similar with my late husband. Oncology treatments are terrible. He needed constant help with everything. That's why I'm here to support Natalie in this very difficult time for the family. Mark and I exchanged glances. Amber's presence was revealing. She was there as a witness to validate what was coming next. Natalie took papers from her purse. Dad, we prepared general power of attorney documents. It's to make your life easier. I'll take care of paying bills, managing properties, coordinating with doctors, everything. You just have to concentrate on recovering. She extended the papers towards me. I took them and slowly began to read them, even though I already knew what they contained. They were extremely broad powers: authorization to sell properties, empty bank accounts, sign contracts on my behalf, make medical decisions, total access to my assets. Basically, I would become a legal puppet, and she the one pulling the strings. These documents give you absolute control over everything I own, I commented in a calm voice, pointing to specific clauses. My technical training had taught me to read contracts meticulously. Well, it's for protection for your own good, Adrian quickly replied. Imagine if something happens to you during treatment. Someone has to be able to act quickly. I placed the papers on the coffee table. And why not Mark? He's my son too. Natalie and Adrian visibly tensed. Mark lives in New York City. He can't be here regularly. I'm in Los Angeles, always available, Natalie argued, although the last few months had proven exactly the opposite. Interesting, because Mark has been more present in the last 2 weeks than you have in the last 6 months, I said in a perfectly neutral tone. Adrian changed tactics. Ernest, let's be practical. You're 67, with advanced cancer, aggressive treatment ahead. You need professional help to manage considerable assets. I work in financial management. I can optimize your resources, ensure the money works for you, protect your legacy. It's my specialty. There it was. The true objective finally verbalized without disguise. Access to my money under the pretext of professional management. I have a question, I said, leaning forward. Why last Thursday were you at my accountant's office asking about my investments and insurance policies without my knowledge or authorization? The silence was absolute. Adrian paled. Natalie looked at her husband with an expression of panic. Amber cleared her throat uncomfortably. I was just making preliminary inquiries to be able to advise you better, Adrian stammered. And why, 3 weeks ago, did you tell Robert Campbell that you would soon have 2 prime properties in Los Angeles and Arizona available for inheritance liquidation? Verbatim words, according to a direct witness. Now, Natalie also paled. Adrian opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Mark stood up from his chair and stood beside me. Do you want me to tell you what's really happening here? You two planned this months ago. Canceling Dad's medical appointment wasn't carelessness. It was deliberate sabotage to deteriorate his health. You wanted him to get worse, to depend on you, to sign papers like these when he was weak and scared. Then you would take everything and probably put him in some retirement home where he couldn't interfere. That's ridiculous, Mark. How dare you accuse your own sister of something so horrible, Natalie shouted, but her voice trembled. I went to my desk and took out my notebook. I opened it to the first page. June 15th, 2023. Natalie cancels urgent oncology consultation transport to take Amber to the spa. Testimony of neighbor Dolores Peterson. She saw both of them driving past this building at 9:05 in the morning, laughing, while I was in a taxi trying to get to the hospital on time. I missed the appointment. The tumor advanced. I have medical reports documenting the progression directly attributable to that 2-month delay. I turned pages. July 23rd. Bank manager informs me that Natalie was asking how to gain control over my accounts. August 14th. Adrian and Natalie suggest a retirement home and transfer of my apartment. August 20th. Engineering colleague tells me Adrian is publicly marketing my properties as imminent inheritance. Every date, every documented fact fell upon them like hammer blows. Adrian tried to regain his composure. All of that are misunderstandings. Conversations taken out of context. You're paranoid because of the medications, Ernest. It's a known side effect of chemotherapy, anxiety, suspicion. You need psychological help, in addition to oncology. There it was, the next phase of their strategy. Discredit me as mentally unstable. Convert my lucidity into a symptom of illness. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out documents carefully organized in transparent folders. Here is the complete report from Dr. Harrison Stone, oncologist at Northwestern Medical Center. 8 pages detailing precise dates, tumor evolution, and a direct correlation between treatment delay and worsening prognosis. It includes his verbatim words. The optimal therapeutic window was lost due to the lapse between June and August. I placed another folder on the table. Here are notarized statements from 3 witnesses: Dolores Peterson, who saw them on June 15th, Robert Campbell, concerning your public comments marketing my properties, and the manager of Chase Bank regarding Natalie's inappropriate inquiries. Third folder: a certificate of full mental capacity signed by Dr. Vincent Salazar Ortiz, a licensed psychiatrist, performed 5 days ago. It confirms that I maintain all my cognitive faculties intact: perfect memory, preserved logical reasoning, full autonomous decision-making capacity, zero evidence of mental deterioration. Adrian's face had gone from pale to ashen. Natalie looked at the documents as if they were venomous snakes, but I wasn't finished. I took out a large, sealed envelope and finally opened it with deliberate calm. Notarized deeds dated yesterday, August 25th, 2023, before notary Stephen Nelson Carter. Document 1. New will revoking any previous dispositions. Of my total assets of $1,550,000, Natalie will receive only her legal fixed share, 516 saxons. Mark will receive 1,033 this. Document 2. Lifetime gift deed for the Arizona house to Mark, effective immediately. Document 3. Exclusive healthcare powers of attorney granted to Mark as the sole authorized representative for medical decisions. The silence that followed was deafening. Natalie had stood up, trembling. "What did you do, Dad? You can't do this. I'm your daughter. I took care of you." My voice remained calm, but each word carried the weight of months of accumulated pain. "You took care of me until you married Adrian. After that, I became a nuisance with money, a problem to solve, an inheritance to accelerate. You canceled my oncology treatment for a spa day. You drove past my house laughing while I suffered in a taxi. You minimized my cancer to your brother. You tried to gain control of my finances behind my back. And now you come with papers to legally strip me of everything I built in 42 years of honest work." Natalie began to cry, but they were tears of rage and frustration, not genuine remorse. "This is Mark's fault. He manipulated you, poisoned you against me. Mark didn't have to do anything. Your own actions spoke for you. Every decision, every word, every priority you chose showed me exactly who you are now." Adrian, recovering some of his initial arrogance, tried one last argument. "This isn't going to stand, Ernest. Those documents can be challenged. Undue influence from Mark, diminished capacity due to illness. We have lawyers too." Mark let out a humorless laugh. "Try it. We have 3 independent medical evaluations confirming Dad's full capacity. We have documentation of 6 months of your manipulation attempts. We have witnesses. We have recordings." That immediately caught their attention. "Recordings?" I pulled out my cell phone. In California, it is completely legal to record conversations in which one participates without informing the other party for the protection of one's own rights. I have 4 phone conversations recorded with Natalie where she minimizes my illness, inappropriately solicits money, or makes revealing comments about priorities, all admissible as legal evidence. Amber, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke. "Natalie, I think we should go. This is out of control." There was genuine panic in her voice. She was surely calculating how her participation as a witness in this farce could affect her legally or socially. Natalie turned to her in a fury. "You said this would work. You said we just needed to pressure him when he was weak from chemotherapy, that he would sign anything." There was the direct confession that Amber not only knew about the plan, but had advised on timing and strategy. Mark immediately pulled his own phone from his pocket. He had been recording the entire conversation since they arrived. Adrian noticed the gesture, and his expression changed from arrogance to pure terror. "Natalie, shut up! Don't say anything else. We're leaving now." But Natalie was in full emotional collapse. "It's not fair. That money should be mine. I worked taking care of you after Mom died. I deserve it." "You will receive exactly what you deserve, your legal inheritance and nothing more," I replied with absolute firmness. "And consider that I showed mercy. I could have initiated legal proceedings for deliberate medical negligence, attempted financial fraud, abuse of a vulnerable person. I could have completely disinherited you, alleging mistreatment, which is perfectly documented. I did not do it because, despite everything, you are still my daughter, and some part of me remembers the girl you were before greed corrupted you." I approached her, looking directly into her eyes. "But listen to me very carefully, Natalie. From this moment on, you have no access to my life, my decisions, or my assets beyond what is strictly legal. When I die, you will receive a check for 566. That will be the last time anything of mine reaches your hands. There will be no funeral you can attend because I will leave specific instructions. There will be no reconciliation on my deathbed. There will be no easy forgiveness or second chance. This is your consequence. Live with it." Natalie ran out of the apartment, sobbing. Adrian followed her after giving me a look of pure hatred. Amber stood in my living room, visibly uncomfortable, not knowing whether to follow her daughter-in-law or attempt some kind of justification. I looked at her with a neutral expression. "Ms. Riley, I suggest you reconsider your association with this matter very carefully. You are documented as an active participant in an attempted fraud against a sick person. That has legal and social ramifications. For your own good, distance yourself immediately." She left, hastily, without saying a word, clearly terrified of the consequences she was only just beginning to comprehend. When the door closed, Mark and I remained silent for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. "Dad, I have no words. You were relentless but fair. Mom would have been proud." His eyes glistened with tears. I sat heavily on the sofa. The adrenaline of the confrontation was beginning to dissipate, leaving me exhausted. "I felt no pleasure doing it, Mark. I felt deep sadness, but it was necessary. If I had shown weakness or doubt, they would have continued to pressure, manipulate, seeking cracks. The only way to stop them was to show absolute strength. That night, I slept better than I had in months, despite everything. There was clarity. Now, the cards were on the table. There was no longer any uncertainty or false hopes that everything was a misunderstanding. The following days brought exactly the consequences I had anticipated. On Wednesday, August 27th, I received an email from Natalie and Adrian's law firm, Thompson and Associates Law Firm. It was a formal letter announcing their intention to contest the will due to undue influence by third parties and diminished capacity of the testator. Exactly what Adrian had threatened. I immediately forwarded the email to Mr. Philip Morgan Davies. His response arrived in less than 2 hours. "We expected this. We have ironclad documentation. I will prepare a formal response, rejecting all allegations and warning about the consequences of frivolous litigation. Don't worry." On Thursday, August 28th, Dolly came up to visit me. "Ernest, I saw Natalie at the supermarket this morning. I tried to greet her, and she literally turned her back on me. Then I heard her telling someone else that you had lost your mind because of the medications, and that Mark had manipulated you to steal her inheritance. She's spreading lies." I thanked her for informing me. "Dolly, if anyone asks you, You are a registered witness to what you saw on June 15th. The truth is on our side. Let her dig her own social grave. And that was exactly what happened. The Los Angeles community, especially among the older people who had known me for decades, began to talk. Word spread about a daughter who had cancelled her father's oncology transport to take her mother-in-law to the spa. The details leaked: the tumor's progression, the attempts at financial appropriation, the false documents. Los Angeles may be a huge city, but residential neighborhoods maintain that small-town dynamic where reputations matter. Father Michael called me on Friday, August 29th. Ernest, I wanted you to know that Natalie came to the parish yesterday demanding that I speak with you, that I mediate the terrible injustice that Mark and you were doing to her. I explained that I couldn't intervene without knowing all the facts from both sides. She left, furious, accusing me of being bought off. I thought you should know. Thank you, Father. I'm sorry they dragged you into this. Don't apologize. It showed me exactly who she is now and confirms that you made the right decisions. On Saturday, August 30th, Mark had to return to New York City for work commitments. Before he left, we organized everything for the following weeks: chemotherapy schedule, contracted medical transport service, private nurse for home visits twice a week, daily video call system for monitoring. He also set up a system where I could scan and send him any suspicious documents immediately. Dad, if Natalie or Adrian try to contact you again, don't respond without witnesses or a recording. And let me know immediately. I hugged him tightly. I had lost a daughter, but the son I had left was worth 1,000. On Monday, September 1st, a certified letter arrived from Thompson and Associates law firm, formalizing the will contestation. Mr. Davies responded on Tuesday, September 2nd, with a 22-page legal document, demolishing every argument, multiple psychiatric evaluations, a documented chronology of manipulation attempts, notarized testimonies, legal recordings, notarial certifications of capacity. Additionally, he formally warned that continuing with frivolous litigation would result in a counterclaim for judicial harassment and a demand for legal costs. Natalie's law firm never wrote again. On Thursday, September 4th, during my second chemotherapy session, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered with the speaker activated. It was Amber. "Mr. Roberts, this is Amber. Please don't hang up." Her voice sounded desperate. "I need to talk to you. Natalie and Adrian have cut me off completely. They say I ruined everything by talking too much. My own family is blaming me for something they planned. I'm suffering terrible social consequences. My club friends avoid me. My son is furious with me. Please, you have to help me clarify that I was just trying to support my daughter-in-law." The irony was almost comical. She had actively participated in a plan to defraud me. And now that the plan had exploded, she wanted me to rescue her from the consequences. "Ms. Riley, you came to my house as a witness to validate fraudulent documents. You advised on timing to pressure me when I was vulnerable from chemotherapy. Your own words, confessed by Natalie, are recorded. I cannot help you because you chose to actively participate in a morally repugnant and legally questionable act. The consequences you face are proportional to your actions. Learn from them." I hung up. I blocked her number. Dr. Stone, who had heard part of the conversation while checking my vital signs, shook his head. "Mr. Roberts, in 30 years of treating oncology patients, I've seen too many stories of family members taking advantage of vulnerability, but I've never seen anyone defend themselves with such strategic clarity as you have. It's admirable. Doctor, 42 years of solving engineering problems taught me that problems don't disappear by ignoring them. They are faced with method, data, and firm decisions. September passed between chemotherapy sessions, manageable side effects, and a strange calm after the storm of confrontation. Mark came every 2 weekends from New York City. We had established a functional routine: daily video calls at 9 at night, medical reports shared digitally, coordination with Dr. Stone. My body fought cancer and medications simultaneously, but my mind remained clear and focused. On Tuesday, September 19th, I received an unexpected visit from my former project partner, Jeremy Foster Thompson, a retired engineer with whom I had built 2 major bridges in the 90s. "Ernest, I came because I heard about your situation from Robert. I wanted to see you personally." We spent the afternoon recalling old projects, technical challenges overcome, anecdotes from construction sites. He didn't mention Natalie until he was about to leave. "Ernest, I also came because I saw Adrian last week at an investors' meeting. He was trying to secure financing for a real estate project using family properties in the process of acquisition as collateral. Several serious investors backed out when they investigated and discovered that those properties are still legally in your name and that there is a documented family conflict. His professional reputation is destroyed. No one wants to associate with someone who tries to market assets they don't own." That information was revealing. Adrian's plan wasn't just to keep my assets. It was to use them as leverage for his own businesses, even before legally owning them. The greed had been deeper than I imagined. On September 26th, during my 4th chemotherapy session, Dr. Stone reviewed recent analyses with a cautiously optimistic expression. "Mr. Roberts, tumor markers are decreasing. The tumor has shrunk from 4.7 cm to 3.9 cm. The chemotherapy is working. If this trend continues, we could consider surgery in December or January." It was the first genuinely good news in months. I called Mark immediately afterward. He shouted with joy on the other end of the phone, "Dad, you're doing it. Your body is responding." His happiness filled me with an energy that the medications couldn't provide. October arrived with cooler temperatures and visible changes in my situation. The story of Natalie and Adrian had become common knowledge in certain circles of Los Angeles. On October 3rd, Ms. Adams from the bank called me. "Mr. Roberts, I thought you'd be interested to know that your daughter closed her account with us. She came in very upset, demanded to transfer everything to another bank. She said we were disloyal for not providing her with information about your finances." It was quite an unpleasant scene, witnessed by other customers. On October 9th, Dolly told me that she had seen Natalie and Adrian put their house up for sale. It has a huge real estate sign in the yard. It looks like they're moving. Perhaps it's better for everyone. A new beginning in another place where people don't know the story. On October 15th, I completed my 6th and final cycle of chemotherapy. Dr. Stone ordered new full CT scans to evaluate the total response to treatment. The results arrived on the 22nd. The tumor had shrunk to 2.8 cm, within parameters considered surgical. The excised lymph nodes showed minimal residual cancer cells, but nothing that compromised the prognosis. "Mr. Roberts, you are officially in partial remission. We will schedule surgery for January 2024. The chances of complete resection are now 72%. You've won this battle." Dr. Stone shook my hand with genuine firmness. When I left the hospital that day, I stopped in the parking lot. I looked at the clear, bright blue October sky. I thought of Phyllis. I thought of the 6 months that had passed since that June 15th, when Natalie cancelled my transport. I thought of everything I had lost and everything I had gained. I had lost the illusion of having a daughter who loved me unconditionally, but I had gained clarity about who she truly was. I had lost an optimal therapeutic window, but I had gained the determination to fight with all my might. I had lost part of my assets in strategic donations, but I had protected my legacy from greedy hands. On October 26th, Mark arrived in Los Angeles to stay for a full week, celebrating the good medical news. We cooked together, watched old movies, organized all my tax and medical documents. One afternoon, as we were preparing coffee, the doorbell rang. It was a messenger with a certified letter. I opened it. It was from a different law firm than Natalie's Miller and Partners law firm. The letter formally informed that Natalie Vidal Thompson and Adrian Thompson Carter had initiated divorce proceedings. As part of the proceedings, Natalie formally requested an advance on her inheritance to finance her separation situation. Basically, she wanted me to give her money now instead of waiting for my death. Mark read the letter over my shoulder and let out a bitter laugh. It can't be real. After everything that happened, she has the audacity to ask you for money. I showed Mr. Davies the letter via video call that same afternoon. He shook his head. An inheritance is not legally enforceable until the death of the testator, unless the testator voluntarily decides to advance it. You have no legal obligation to respond to this request. In fact, I recommend ignoring it completely. It is a desperate attempt without legal merit. I followed his advice. I did not respond. On October 31st, the last day of the month, I received a call from a private number. I hesitated but answered. It was Natalie. Her voice sounded broken, tired. "Dad, please. I need to talk to you. Adrian left me. He blames me for everything. I lost my house. My friends abandoned me. Amber won't speak to me. I'm alone. Please, Dad. I'm your daughter." I felt a pang of pain, but I also remembered June 15th. I remembered Amber has priority. I remembered every moment of calculated coldness. "Natalie, you are my daughter biologically, but real daughters don't let their fathers die for financial convenience. You reap what you sow. Learn to live with it." I hung up. April 2024. 10 months have passed since that June 15th that changed everything. I am sitting on the balcony of my apartment in Los Angeles, drinking coffee on a sunny spring morning. The air smells of flowers from neighboring gardens. I can hear children playing in the nearby park. Life goes on. The surgery was performed on January 17th, 5 hours in the operating room. Dr. Stone and his team achieved complete resection of the tumor with clean margins. The excised lymph nodes showed minimal residual cancer cells, but nothing that compromised the prognosis. I came out of surgery, weakened but victorious. Mark was in the waiting room all those hours. Recovery was slow. 6 weeks of almost absolute rest, severe dietary restrictions, pain controlled with medication. But every day, I felt a little stronger. By March, I was walking 30 minutes daily. In early April, I resumed normal activities with some minor restrictions. On March 23rd, I had my first post-surgical oncology checkup, complete analyses, control CT scans. Dr. Stone reviewed the results with a genuine smile. "Mr. Roberts, no evidence of active disease. You are officially in complete remission. Semi-annual follow-up for 5 years, but the prognosis is excellent. You won this war." When I got home after that consultation, the first thing I did was visit the cemetery where Phyllis rests. I sat by her headstone as I did regularly. I did it, my love. I won, and I won something perhaps more difficult: the betrayal of our own daughter. I know it would hurt you to see her like this. It hurts me too, but I did the right thing. I set boundaries. I taught consequences, just as you taught me to do. Natalie tried to contact me 17 times during these 10 months. Calls, messages, emails, letters sent by postal mail. At first they were demanding, then pleading, finally desperate. I did not respond to any. Mark informed me that she finally got a job as an administrative assistant in a mid-sized company. She rents a small apartment on the outskirts of Los Angeles. She lives modestly. Her divorce from Adrian was finalized in February. He moved to another state, attempting to restart his professional career away from the scandal. Amber, according to Dolly, who maintains extensive social connections, suffered severe isolation in her circle. Her participation in the attempted fraud against a man with cancer made her a social pariah. Her own son kept his distance for months. She now lives quietly, but her reputation never fully recovered. On April 9th, I received a visit from Mr. Philip Morgan Davies. He came to review annual documentation, but also to share news. Mr. Roberts, I thought you'd be interested to know that the firm that represented your daughter permanently closed the case in March. There will be no more attempts to contest the will. Additionally, I checked public records. Natalie does not appear as a creditor or plaintiff in any process against you. Everything is legally closed. I thanked him for his extraordinary services during these difficult months. Mr. Davies, without your strategic advice, I could have lost everything. You gave me the tools to protect myself. He smiled. Mr. Roberts, I only provided the legal framework. You provided the mental clarity, the meticulous documentation, and the determination to see this through to the end. That was all yours. On April 14th, Phyllis's birthday, I went to the cemetery early in the morning. I brought her favorite flowers, white roses. As I placed them, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It was Natalie. She looked different, thinner, shorter hair, simple clothes, without the elaborate makeup and jewelry she used to wear. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes and an expression of absolute defeat. Dad, I knew you'd come today. It's Mom's birthday. I needed to see you. Her voice trembled. I said nothing, simply looked at her. I've had 10 months to think about everything I did, about who I became, about how I disappointed Mom, you, and myself. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I understand now. I understand the damage I caused. I understand that I lost the best father anyone could have due to stupid greed and manipulation by someone who never truly loved me. I remained silent. Part of me wanted to hug her, to tell her everything would be fine. But another part, the part that remembered every moment of pain, every calculated betrayal, kept my feet firmly planted. I've started psychological therapy. I'm working on understanding how I allowed Adrian to turn me into someone so horrible, how I prioritized money over your life, how, her voice broke, how I canceled your oncology appointment for a spa day. Dad, I almost killed you, and I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. Finally, I spoke, my voice calm but firm. Natalie, I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm glad you acknowledge what you did, but acknowledgement does not equate to restoration. Some things, once broken, cannot be fully repaired. You can learn, grow, become a better person. I hope you do. But our relationship as father and daughter died on June 15, 2023, when you said, Amber has priority. That was your definitive choice. You'll never be able to forgive me, she whispered. Perhaps someday I can forgive you in my heart, but that doesn't mean I will allow you back into my life. Forgiveness does not require restoration of trust, and the trust you destroyed is irretrievable. You will live your life, I will live mine. When I die, you will receive your legal inheritance. That will be our last interaction. I turned towards Phyllis's grave, turning my back on Natalie. I heard her sobs for a few moments, then her footsteps slowly receding.